What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're checking out the Piney River Peanut by RoseCraft Blades. This is a brand new knife available tomorrow, September 12th. It'll be at dealers in the morning and then RoseCraft directly a few hours after that. Price will vary depending on which configuration you end up choosing, but if you do order from RoseCraft directly, I have a coupon code UNCOMMON10 which will save you 10%, so can save a few dollars if you're going to be ordering from RoseCraft directly. Now, we'll start with the vintage blue bone. This is a limited run, and so once this first run sells out, they're never going to be making this one again. So the other one's not limited. If you plan on picking up both and maybe you're only going to pick up one at first, I would probably go with this one since it is limited. Price point on here is $51.99. You obviously have the vintage blue bone covers. This is RCT029-BBB, and you can see the saturation that we're used to seeing with RoseCraft on here, but they left it a little bit lighter in the center, and that gives it that distressed or vintage look. I think it looks stunning. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, blue is my favorite color, so I think these just look absolutely great. And $51.99 on that. That's before that 10% discount, so you can save a few more dollars off that if you're ordering through RoseCraft. And then we also have a stag version, always a fan favorite. This one's not limited, so we may see future runs of this one. Stag is a little bit more of an expensive material to obtain and to work with, and so the price point on here is $69.99, again before that coupon code. And this one is RCT029-STG. Now, they're going to be pretty much identical in terms of dimensions. The stag weighs a little bit more. One of the other differences you'll notice is we don't get a shield on the stag, which obviously leaves more of that natural material exposed. They want to leave as much of that possible as exposed because it has that great look to it. But no shield, and then it weighs a little bit more, but otherwise the two will be identical. Now, I am going to be giving away this stag version, the exact one you see in this video. So if you're interested in winning this one for yourself, I'll let you know how to enter at the end of this video, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, starting with our vintage blue bone, again, these are going to be pretty much identical, but these are based off of your traditional peanut pattern with Andy Armstrong's take on it, of course. The major difference between all of the peanuts in my collection is this one's a single bladed peanut, which I'm really excited about because I like single bladed slip joints a lot. A lot of times that second blade affects the ergos. I do like having the second blade, but I really like the ergos of having that natural handle shape without a blade interfering with it. So was super excited to see this is a single bladed version. Obviously with the main blade we typically see being that clip point. 5.1 inches in overall length, so living up to that peanut name. These are obviously a smaller slip joint, perfect for that fifth pocket or coin pocket. You can get a small leather slip made for it and slot it right into there. They're both ultra lightweight, even with the stag weighing a little bit more. They're both really lightweight knives thanks to that small sizing. 2.9 inches in our closed position, which also equates to our handle length. And so for me, that's a 3-finger grip. Full 3 fingers, my pinky is completely off the back here, and that's perfectly fine for a knife this size. We're getting a 2.1 inch blade, so I'm not going to be using this for ultra heavy work, but for its sizing, plenty of grip on here, very comfortable ergos. And again, just love that we don't have that second blade interfering with the natural curve of that handle. Overall, very comfortable handle shape. Now, for our covers, again, we have the vintage blue bone on this version, and we get the rose bomb shield, which I think fits this peanut shape really nicely. It's not too long. Sometimes I've seen longer bomb shields. It's not too long, and I think that's intentional, so you get as much of that cover material as possible. And it's also pretty narrow, so fits nicely on this pattern. Looks great, obviously completely flush, as are the pins. We get the breast steel bolsters, no gapping or stepping between our stainless steel liners and that spring or the cover material. And obviously you're going to be right down the center as well. We can go ahead and close this up and take a look. Don't remember if I showed that in the beginning when I was showing this off, so we'll go ahead and look at it here. In terms of the action, really nice kind of mid-weight pull on here, a little bit on the lighter side. I'd say for the vintage blue bone version, it's right around a 5, and then our stag is a little bit heavier at about a 5.5, but they feel very similar in pull weight. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of variance between every single one of these knives, but they're very similar overall in terms of the pull weight, in terms of the snappiness of that action. Plenty of access to that nail nick, which we'll see here. Plenty of access to that nail nick. Really nice snappy action. We still get the half stop as well, so we can hear that into our half stop and again into our closed position. So nice snappy action there. And then we do have the swedge on our clip point blades, 2.1 inch clip point blade. And so with this one, we have that swedge, the nail nick D2 steel, and then we have the RoseCraft stamp on our show side tang. Flipping over to the PAL side, we get the etching with Andy's Maker's Mark, the D2 steel, and then the model designation, which is again RCT029-BBB on our vintage blue bone. Really, really beautiful knife. I'm really digging this one. Now, when it comes to the stag, there's really not much difference. We already know the dimensions. The vintage blue bone weighs in at 1.6 ounces. Our stag version is going to be right at 2 ounces on the dot. So not significantly heavier, still ultra lightweight thanks to the shorter sizing of this. And then obviously your covers on here are going to be 1 of 1. That's true with the vintage blue bone as well, but that's really just going to be your coloration and the saturation of the dye. With this one, you actually get different shapes in those covers, thanks to just kind of the natural curves of that stag bone. And so they do a really good job of matching them up, not just in terms of the coloration, which you can see is pretty consistent between the two, but also the shapes. So all of the stag knives I have from RoseCraft, they did a really good job of selecting the show side covers versus the PAL side covers. And you can see they're not identical because of course they're never going to be, each one's unique, but they have a similar where they're kind of thicker on the top bolster and then they narrow out in the center and then they thicken up a little bit on the lower bolster, but not quite as thick as the top bolster. And so they stayed really consistent with that shaping, which is nice because it offers a very consistent grip as well. One of the advantages of this stag version, even though it's a little bit more expensive, obviously some people just love the way the stag looks and it kind of warrants that price, but one of the advantages on a knife this size is that it adds a little bit of texturing to your grip. So my middle finger in particular, I'm able to really pinch down thanks to the natural shapes of the stag, and then obviously the texture of that, it adds a little bit of grippiness to it as well, so you get this really nice 3-finger grippy grip on it. And so it does have a little bit better ergos even than our vintage blue bone. And so something to keep in mind, obviously. I already mentioned the no shield. Everything else is going to be exactly identical. The pull weight on this one is just a little bit heavier. I'd still only say it's about a 5.5, and it does feel just slightly snappier, but very consistent between the two. It's not a major difference at all. And then obviously still have plenty of access to that nail nick here. Can't really pinch grip it, but you do have plenty of access to that nail grip. And so your mileage may vary there in terms of the pinch grip. Maybe you'll be able to get a little bit of the meat of your finger into that nail nick and pinch grip it. Haven't tried that hard. The nail nick just works well enough for me, and it's not a nail breaker by any means, so I'm not super worried about getting my nail in there. Let me know what you think of these two down in the comments. Now, I did mention I'm going to be giving away this stag knife here, and so in order to enter, I'm going to run it all the way through at least October 1st. I want to give it a full 2 weeks or so, and so at least October 1st. I may even push it a couple days out to the weekend. But to enter, all you have to do is be subscribed to my channel as well as RoseCraft's channel here on YouTube. And then I'll be checking, obviously, when I draw that winner. And then leave a comment that contains the letters RCB in all caps, all one word. Doesn't matter what it says in the rest of the comment. You can leave your normal comment and just add RCB at the end or beginning. I'll be filtering for that RCB when I draw a winner. Now, when I announce the winner, I'm going to respond directly to your comment, and I'll also put a pinned comment announcing it. When we do these giveaways, naturally scammers pop up, try to mimic accounts. So if you do get a response, I would always just click into it and make sure it's my actual channel. I'm only going to respond from the actual channel, and you'll be able to tell if the videos aren't there, if there's no subscribers, that sort of thing. Sometimes they have bot subscribers, but you can take a look at the real channel by clicking it at the top and see that it matches up. Just make sure you're not getting scammed. I would hate for someone to get scammed on one of these giveaways. 18 years or older, US addresses only, although you can be in other countries. You just have to arrange that proxy yourself, whether it's through someone here in the US or a proxy service. I've been burned a couple times shipping internationally, so just going to stick with US addresses. But again, international is welcome. This knife is legal pretty much everywhere with that 2.1 inch blade, non-locking. So obviously happy to ship it to a proxy here in the US if you do want to enter. But again, would love to hear your thoughts on this one down in the comments. I'll leave the rules in the description at least until it's given away. Once it's given away, I may remove it just to avoid any confusion, but I will leave that pinned comment up with whoever won and obviously make sure that gets shipped out to you. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, checking out some other content. All helps the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.